Hello, and a very warm welcome. For years, many of us have been told a lie about learning English. We've been told that the path to fluency is paved with struggle, with painful grammar drills, and with the brute force memorization of thousands of words. We've been made to feel that if we're not succeeding, it's because we aren't working hard enough. Today, we're going to replace that lie with a powerful truth. What if I told you the smartest, most effective, and most enjoyable path to mastering English isn't about working harder, but about working smarter? What if the key wasn't a stressful app or an expensive course, but a timeless skill you've had since you were a child? In this definitive guide, we will explore how the simple act of reading can fundamentally rewire your brain for English fluency. We will deconstruct not just the how, but the deep why behind this incredible method. Let's begin with the most visible benefit, an explosive and organic expansion of your vocabulary. The traditional method of using flashcards is flawed because it treats words as isolated facts. This is not how our brains are wired to learn. Our brains are connection-making machines. This is why reading is so powerful. It utilizes a principle I call contextual anchoring. Let me tell you a story. Imagine you're reading a novel and you encounter this sentence. After a long and perilous journey, reaching the summit of the mountain was a triumphant moment for the climbers. You might already know the word happy. But triumphant has a different weight, a different texture. It suggests victory after a great struggle. Your brain doesn't just store a definition. It anchors the word triumphant to the rich context. The image of the mountain, the feeling of the cold wind, the exhaustion and elation of the climbers. Then, a few chapters later, you read, "He delivered a triumphant speech after his team won the championship." Now, your brain creates a new connection. It sees the same core emotion of victory, but in a totally different context. This is how deep vocabulary is built. It grows not in flat, forgettable lists, but in a rich, three-dimensional web of stories, images, and emotions, making the words both memorable and instantly usable. Now, let's address the topic that causes the most fear: grammar. I want to debunk a pervasive myth. Myth: you must master grammar rules before you can read complex texts. Reality: you master grammar by reading complex texts. This shift in perspective is everything. Through reading, you develop what I call grammar intuition. This works because of a linguistic principle known as language acquisition. This is the subconscious process of internalizing a language, as opposed to the conscious process of learning its rules. When you read, you are feeding your brain a massive dataset of correct, natural English. Your brain, the ultimate pattern recognition machine, begins to subconsciously analyze and understand the deep structure of the language. You develop an intuitive gut feeling for what sounds right, just as native speakers do. You'll find yourself naturally using complex structures, not because you're reciting a rule, but because you've absorbed the pattern through countless examples in your reading. This process is also a phenomenal workout for your brain. Let's talk about a concept from cognitive science called cognitive load, the amount of mental effort used in your working memory. Traditional study methods, like trying to simultaneously translate a sentence while remembering a grammar rule, create an incredibly high cognitive load. This is why you feel mentally exhausted after just 30 minutes of studying. Reading, especially a story you enjoy, has a much lower cognitive load. Because you're engaged by the content, your brain enters a state of flow, and you can sustain this learning state for much longer. It's the difference between one painful, heavy lift at the gym versus a long, invigorating hike. Both build muscle, but only one is a sustainable, enjoyable practice you can do every day. Reading builds your mental agility and processing speed without the burnout. In a world of constant distraction, the deep focus required for reading also trains your ability to concentrate, a true superpower in the 21st century. This mental workout directly fuels your output skills, your ability to write and speak. There is a simple but profound law of creation. You cannot produce what you have not first consumed. An empty well provides no water. Reading is the act of methodically filling your mental well with the high-quality, authentic language you will need to express your own unique ideas. But let's make this process even more active. I want you to steal like an artist. This means you don't just passively read. You actively collect and deconstruct the language you admire. Keep a dedicated notebook. When you find a sentence structure that is particularly elegant or powerful, write it down. Let's do a quick workshop right now. Imagine you read this sentence from a great author. The city at night was a dazzling symphony of light and sound, endlessly fascinating to the young traveler. Now, let's deconstruct its structure. Subject was a adjective, metaphor of noun and noun, adjective, to the observer. Now, let's build our own. How about? Her presentation was a convincing symphony of data and logic, endlessly persuasive to the board members. Do you see the power in this? You're not just learning words. You're learning the very architecture of sophisticated expression. This is how you move beyond textbook English and begin to speak and write with real style. Beyond the language itself, reading is your personal portal into the cultures of the English-speaking world. Language is the DNA of culture, and reading is like having a microscope to examine it. This cultural fluency is what separates a good speaker from a great communicator. Let me give you a detailed example. Let's talk about communication styles. Through reading American business books, you might notice a very direct, low-context style of communication. The message is explicit. We need to increase sales by 15% this quarter. Then, you might read a classic British novel and notice a more indirect, high-context style, full of understatement. A character might say, "I'm a little bit concerned about our sales figures," when in reality, they are deeply worried. Understanding this difference through reading prevents real-world miscommunication. You learn to read between the lines. You understand that the way something is said is just as important as what is said. This nuanced understanding of cultural etiquette, humor, and social dynamics makes you a more sensitive, adaptable, and effective communicator. This deep well of knowledge directly solves one of the most painful problems for learners: your mind going blank when you try to speak. The solution is to build and organize your mental library. Let's truly expand on this metaphor. You are the chief architect and librarian of this incredible structure in your mind. Every book you read is a new wing. A collection of science fiction novels builds your wing of future and fantasy. A series of articles from The Economist builds your wing of global affairs. Your job isn't just to collect books, it's to know your collection. This is why rereading your favorite books in English is so incredibly valuable. When you reread a book, you are walking through a familiar wing of your library. You're not struggling with a plot. You're noticing the language, the sentence structures, the specific word choices the author made. You're reinforcing the knowledge, making the connections in your brain stronger. The more you read and reread, the more organized and instantly accessible your mental library becomes, ready for you to retrieve the perfect phrase at a moment's notice. Now, how do we ensure the knowledge in our library can be spoken aloud with confidence? We must practice reading out loud. This technique creates a powerful, physical connection between your mind and your mouth. Let's talk about prosody, the rhythm, stress, and intonation of speech. It is the music of a language. You can have perfect grammar, but if your prosody is flat, you will sound robotic. Reading aloud is your rehearsal space for this music. I recommend a technique I call dramatic reading. Don't just read the words, perform them. Find a piece of dialogue in a book you're reading. Read it as if you were an actor auditioning for the role. If the character is angry, say the lines with anger in your voice. If they are whispering a secret, whisper the lines. This practice does two things. It makes the process more fun, and it deeply connects the language to human emotion, which is a powerful memory aid. The cumulative effect of all this is that you begin to think directly in English. Let's be very clear. The habit of mentally translating everything is the single greatest bottleneck to fluent conversation. It's like playing an online video game with a terrible internet connection. There is a constant, frustrating lag between your thought and your action. Reading is the most effective way to upgrade your mental internet connection. When you are truly lost in a compelling story, your brain enters a state of deep immersion. It doesn't have the spare cognitive resources to be translating. It is forced to operate in English mode. The more you can achieve this state of flow, the more you are building and strengthening this direct-to-English neural pathway. Here's another advanced technique to accelerate this. Third-person narration. Sit in a public place like a park or a cafe. Choose a random person and become the narrator of their story in your head. That man is drinking a coffee. He looks thoughtful. Perhaps he is waiting for someone. He just checked his phone. Maybe he is late. This creative exercise forces you to generate spontaneous language about the world around you, completely in English. So, the case is made. Reading is your superpower. But how do you start? The most critical decision is choosing the right material. This is about finding the sweet spot I call the comfortably challenging zone. Let me give you a very practical tool for this. The rule of 5 fingers. Open any book to any random page. Read that page. For every word you don't know, hold up 1 finger. If you get to the end of the page and you have 5 fingers up, this book is likely too difficult for you right now. It will be a frustrating experience. Thank the book for its future lessons and put it back on the shelf. If you hold up 0 fingers, the book is likely too easy. The sweet spot? 1, 2, or 3 fingers. That's your comfortably challenging zone. It ensures you're learning without killing your momentum. Once you've found your level, the second golden rule is to choose a topic you are genuinely passionate about. Your willpower is a finite resource. Your curiosity is an infinite one. It is always better to read a simple article about a topic you love than an advanced academic paper about something you find boring. So, do a self-assessment. What do you already love? What are you already curious about? If you love cooking, read recipe blogs and chef biographies. If you love psychology, read books by authors like Angela Duckworth or Daniel Kahneman. If you love video games, read gaming news sites like IGN or Polygon. I also want to encourage you to find your gateway author. Often, all it takes is finding one author whose style and voice you connect with. For millions, it was J.K. Rowling. For others, it might be a nonfiction writer like Malcolm Gladwell. Your mission is to experiment until you find your gateway author, the one who makes you forget you're even reading in a foreign language because you're so captivated by their stories. Now, the million-dollar question. How do we integrate this into our busy lives? The answer lies in the science of habit formation. We must make reading so easy and automatic that it becomes a non-negotiable part of our day, like brushing our teeth. The most effective technique for this is called habit stacking. You don't create a new habit from scratch. You stack it on top of an existing habit. Don't just make a vague promise to read more. Create a specific, actionable recipe. After I pour my morning coffee, I will read for 10 minutes. The existing habit of drinking coffee is the trigger. After I get into bed at night, I will read 1 page of my English book before turning off the light. During my lunch break, after I finish eating, I will read 1 article on my phone. By linking the new, desired behavior to an old, automatic one, you are essentially tricking your brain into adopting the habit with much less resistance. Let's build on this and design a complete system for creating an unbreakable reading habit. First, as we said, stack your habit. Choose your trigger. Second, design your environment for success. Make reading the path of least resistance. If you want to read more, don't leave your book on the shelf. Leave it on your coffee table, on your nightstand, on your desk. Put your Kindle app on the home screen of your phone and move the distracting social media apps into a folder on the second page. You want to make it easier to start reading than it is to start scrolling. Third, create a reading ritual. Make it a sacred, enjoyable time. Find your favorite chair. Make a cup of tea. Put on some calming music. Make reading feel like a reward, a moment of peaceful escape in your busy day. And finally, learn to see the world as a collection of reading pockets. No one has a spare, uninterrupted hour anymore, but everyone has pockets of time. 5 minutes waiting for the bus, 10 minutes in a waiting room, 7 minutes while your lunch is heating up. Instead of seeing this as dead time, see it as a reading opportunity. These pockets are where you can make serious progress. 5 10-minute pockets throughout the day is almost an hour of reading. Even with the best habits, you will face challenges. Let's create your reader's first aid kit. The most common problem is encountering unknown words. We've established that looking up every word is a terrible strategy. So, here's a better one: vocabulary triad. As you read, you're the doctor, and you must quickly categorize each unknown word. Category 1: critical. Is this word absolutely essential to understanding the main idea of this paragraph? If yes, this is a critical case. You have permission to stop and look it up quickly. Category 2: interesting. Is this word interesting, but you can generally understand the sentence without it? This is not an emergency. Highlight the word or jot it down in a notebook, and you can look it up later after your reading session is over. Category 3: ignore. Is this an obscure adjective or a word that doesn't seem important? This is a minor scratch. Your best course of action is to ignore it completely and keep your reading momentum going. Your priority is flow. The second major challenge is the dreaded reading slump, that period when you lose all motivation and just don't feel like reading. When this happens, do not try to force it. That will only make you resent the act of reading. A reading slump is a signal from your brain that it needs a change. So, the first aid is to change your input method. If you've been reading a dense nonfiction book, give yourself a 1-week break and switch to listening to a fun English podcast. Or watch a season of a TV show. Let your brain absorb the language in a different way. After a week of listening, coming back to reading will feel fresh and exciting again. And if motivation is low in general, always go back to your why. Why are you doing this? And always start smaller than you think you need to. Commit to reading just one paragraph, or for just 2 minutes. The hardest part of any task is getting started. Once you begin, inertia often takes over, and you'll find yourself reading for much longer. What if you're facing a very long or difficult text, like a novel? The strategy here is aggressive chunking. You are not reading a 500-page book. You are just reading the next chapter. And if a chapter feels too long, you're just reading the next 10 pages. Break the intimidating goal down into non-intimidating, manageable steps. Another powerful strategy for long texts is pre-reading. Before you start a new chapter, it's okay to read a 1-paragraph summary of it online. This is not cheating, it's a strategy. It gives your brain a map of the terrain ahead. Knowing the basic plot points allows your brain to relax and focus more of its energy on absorbing the language, the descriptions, and the dialogue, rather than struggling to figure out what's happening. And remember the golden rule. Focus on overall comprehension, not 100% understanding. It is perfectly okay if you don't understand every single word. As long as you are following the main thread of the story, you are succeeding. The psychological boost you get from finishing your first full novel in English, even with imperfect understanding, is immeasurable. It's a milestone that proves to you that fluency is an achievable reality. So, after this deep and extensive exploration, let's step back and summarize the core findings from our lab today. We have discovered that reading is not just a way to learn English. It is arguably the most holistic and effective way. It is a vocabulary building machine. It is an intuitive grammar teacher. It is a cognitive workout that sharpens your mind. It is a direct line to understanding new cultures. And it is the most effective way to build your mental library, cure the blank mind problem, and begin thinking directly in English. The strategies are simple, but not always easy. The key to unlocking all these benefits is the one thing no one can teach you, but that you have full control over: consistency. A few pages every day, a few chapters every week. That is the secret. That is the entire method. Reading is an act of hope. It's an investment in your future self. It's a commitment to expanding your world. The person you will be a year from now is being built by the small habits you choose to start today. So here is my final challenge to you. Your homework tonight is not to study. It is to do something much more enjoyable. Find one article, one short story, one blog post in English about a topic you are genuinely, deeply curious about. And just read the first page. That is your first step. Take it now. Thank you for joining me in the lab today. I hope you feel inspired and equipped to make reading your new language learning superpower. The world is full of incredible stories and knowledge, and most of it is written in English. By becoming a reader, you are giving yourself the key to unlock it all. If this video was helpful, please give it a like so it can find others who need it, and subscribe for more deep dives into smart language learning. Tell me in the comments, what is the first book or article you are going to read in English? Thank you for watching. Happy reading!